Hello. This is my... I don't know how I want to describe this. Is this my 11th episode? Is this my second episode? I don't know what I'm going to title it as. I think I like the idea of having it as like a quote-unquote separate series, even though it's part of the same game. So we'll say that this is the second episode. This is my second episode of I'm a Secret Roottrees. And I'm super excited to jump right in because we've kind of done our initial investigation. I've gone about it in a different way, which I think is the right way to go about it. Also, give me one quick second. I need to check something because I think my volume for my microphone is a little off. But I am really looking forward to it. We have a lot of information to sort through, which can be a little overwhelming. Which is why I think what I want to do is I want to work from the left over to the right. And the way that I intend to do that, yeah, my microphone levels are just a smidge higher than I want them to be. Okay, there we go. Maybe that'll sound a little bit better. I'm on a new computer, and for whatever reason, it keeps resetting my decibel volume for my mic, and it's pissing me the hell off. So yeah, let's jump in. We are going to continue our Roottreemania. As you can see, I've not played. It's been like almost 2 weeks. So there was a bit of a gap between these two. But we're back in it. It's going to be fun. Okay. Did we have this little cute bear before? I don't remember seeing it. It's so cute. Aw. All right. So what do I mean by going from left to right? Well, I want to start from this side and I want to work this way potentially. I don't think that I might not be able to, but we're going to start off by looking up Elias Roottrees. Another thing that I noticed that I want to draw attention to is we have some pictures that are available for some individuals in the previous family tree that we can actually plug in, which is interesting because that guides us in a particular direction when we are considering what to look up and what to do next. But we're going to start here, and we're going to look up Elias Roottrees. Specifically, I'm going to start with looking up the... Let's look at our notes, actually. Here we go. Elias Roottrees. Sam suggested that Elias may have had an affair while married with Gwyneth. Sam's son, Ernie, asked about a woman named Beth, who Elias and Gwyneth argued over. Elias had a secretary named Elizabeth, not the same one from the farm. So we're going to try and see if we can learn something about him. So we're going to do Elias Roottrees. Elias and Gwyneth Roottrees were never really celebrities, but the general public's perception of them as class faces associated with the Roottrees Candy Company has always been in somewhat high regards. This was Elias's intention as a family man with his family brand. I'm also drinking coffee. I'm a true detective. I just made myself a new pot of black coffee. Well, I'm not drinking it black. I have cream in it. But this is going to help me be a genealogy genie. I fucking love that. I think that's such a cute little moniker. Since Six Pieces, the candy company has placed much less of an emphasis on Elias as a historical brand-connected figure, but there also have been those who have argued that it was his right to decide how to split his inheritance and that he did nothing wrong. This has led to some heated television exchanges and countless op-eds. The first Anderson Maple Farm. Let's open up a new page. Oh, I didn't monologue, did I? First monologue. Well, seems I'm back in the saddle. Dragged into the circus that is the Roottrees family. After all the work I did last year, I'm not surprised Clark came knocking. Not quite sure if I'm glad to see him, especially given the assignment he handed me. It's a bit ironic. The deliverer of this new mystery is the biggest philanderer I discovered in my original investigation. The irony was not lost on him. And given how he's treated Sam, maybe I should afford him a little kindness. I've started by reviewing my notable information this time. I've learned some lessons from our last big job. And the first change I'm making is not letting the damn cashew take me in too many directions. I'm letting my intuition guide me this time. My mentor, Janet, Janet Treehouse. Yes. I can't help but get a degree of... Yeah, yes. It seems like I can't escape the forest of fate. Always said, trust your instincts. Sigh. I don't have a last name. I have a mononym. They'll guide you when it's too murky. No, that's all. She was a succinct woman. That's all she said. And I'll never forget that lesson. Okay, you can scroll down pages. I don't know why I was under the impression that you couldn't scroll down. But I was always like, dude, every time I got close to the bottom of this, I was like, shit, I'm putting too many notes. And there's clearly a way to scroll. It's so funny. Oh, we gotta do first. There we go. All right, our first monologue is done. All right, so let's keep reading. Right, so I wanted to add a page for searches, just like we had before. So we want to do first Anderson Maple Farm again. Only used to be a popular tourist attraction during the summer months when it had special tours. Interesting. The above had special summer tours. However, it's seen an explosion of off-season business as some religious and political groups decide to visit to show support for Elias and Gwyneth's traditional values and financial rights. This rise in support was in turn followed by pickets from gay rights activists when some particularly inflammatory organizations made their pilgrimages. Oh, I'm almost certain the Westboro Baptist Church is being alluded to here, because that was peak fucking 90s homophobia. I'm gonna definitely be testy about this, because this is personally effective emotionally. So I apologize if I say some unkind things against homophobes. So I'm apologizing. Amongst all this conflict, the farm has since shut down, seemingly indefinitely. The website says check back later, but no date has been listed. The quotes from Bess Williams' book appear to have been taken down. Bess Williams' book being the propaganda piece that we read previously. So let's look up... Yeah. I feel like this is what we want to look up then, to start, to see what we can learn about the tours. All right, nothing from this, actually. I doubt summer tours are gonna bring up anything. Yeah. Okay, so what about Elizabeth? We don't know her last name. I mean, if I search Elizabeth, it's not going to be specific. Yeah. Elizabeth Roottree. No, it's not going to be anything. Fuck. All right, well, we're already at a dead end for Elias. I mean, Elizabeth... Secretary? Yeah. Because that's also not going to be helpful because Zachary had a secretary named Elizabeth. Why don't we look up Gwyneth Rootree? All right, nothing about her. Brand connected figure. He did television exchanges and countless op-eds. We could look up Elias or Gwyneth Rootree in our periodicals. So why don't we do Business Watch and we'll do Gwyneth. Well, no, we'll do Elias Rootree. Hasn't been updated. Hasn't been updated. What about news time? Nothing relevant. Yeah, I doubt Starlit or Teen Blast is going to be relevant. I wish that we knew about the television channels. Local, maybe I could look up local news. No. All right, well, so much for Elias. We'll have to get to him from somewhere else. So let's look up Zachary, because I feel like that's the closest relative. Zach Rootree. Really? Maybe I need to look up Zachariah Morden. That's right. Zach Morden. Okay, maybe we can do Zachariah. Nothing. What if we look him up in news time? Nothing relevant. Business Watch. Probably nothing that's been updated recently. Okay. Nothing that we can find out about him. We can find out stuff about him some way. I mean, obviously he had a secretary before named Elizabeth. What about... One of the things that it suggested was that we look up people in positions of power. We looked up Elias. We tried to look up Zachary, didn't find anything. I worry that going down the Guy Hudson path is just going to give us so much information and it's going to be a little overwhelming. I kind of want to follow Miracle then, because again, I would like to work from like this direction over, because this is obviously the most convoluted, well, not even convoluted, but the most like spread out aspect. Let's look up Miracle Rootree then. Seems Miracle Sr. is going on a new tour of the United States in late 1999. The previous flyer for 3 generations of Miracles has been replaced. Okay. That's that. Probably because his son isn't participating anymore. Be part of history. The oldest living Rootree reprises and retells his incredible true story. Miracle Rootree grew up as one of the famous 5 pieces, living a life of wealth and luxury, but fortune was nothing compared to the powerful force of the Almighty. Doctors determined he was destined to die young, but fate had different plans. He's lived a long and fruitful life. However, he is now in his 70s, and his age is beginning to make life on the road more difficult. So you consider this your last chance to see him in a town near you before he settles back down in Pennsylvania. His intimate evening, Miracle will reminisce about his famous history. He'll discuss his family's saints and sinners and provide a unique perspective on one of the most notable families in the United States today. Learn what originally drove him away from his fortune and into the arms of religion, and learn how his life has become more wealthy in spirit than it ever could have been from his inheritance. Site also lists the churches he will be appearing in and mentions that tickets can be purchased at their local services. Noticeably absent are any mentions about Miracle's news appearances. Okay. Let's look up Miracle in news time. Miracle Rootree appeared on the cover of News Time. That's it. And I imagine this isn't going to show up anything. Yeah. I was curious if maybe Butler County Times would. Defunct tabloid. Yeah, so that won't have it. I guess what we'll do is we'll look up the 3 generations of miracles again. Because if there's a new flyer, we might be able to see this. Seems Miracle is on a new tour. Be a part of history. The oldest living root tree. We could do oldest living root tree, maybe. Nothing relevant. Previous fire has been replaced. What about Miracle Jr.? Nothing on him, specifically. One of the lists the churches he will be appearing in and mentions the tickets can be purchased at their local services. Do we know anything about specific churches? Didn't the Roottrees have a bunch of churches? Maybe that's what I should look up. I want to say Miracle Rootree. Yeah, hold on. Butler County Times. The Miracle Network. What if we do this? Miracle Network is the same result. What about this one? Triumphed over this. The power of the Lord blows the blurb about the tour, which is in my evidence. But I don't have access to my old evidence, do I? 3 years later, Miracle Retreat Jr. arrived. Whole new level. I swear that they had like a specific church that they had. Miracle Roottrees Estate. Nothing relevant. I swear to God that there was a way that we found out about specific churches that the Roottrees like founded. Maybe we can look that up here. Miracle Roottrees. Collection of churches. Maybe this is just what I'm thinking of. Any attempt to find more about these legal troubles is thwarted. Collection of churches, television shows, and products that can be purchased. And advertisements in each issue. Nothing there. So, nothing about the 3 generations of miracles. I feel like this clue, though, about getting tickets. What about Miracle Roottrees tickets? Miracle tickets. No. I doubt I can do, like, churches. It's down to 70s, making road more difficult. Settles back down in Pennsylvania. Famous history, saints and sinners. May purchase their local services. Noticeably absent are any mentions about Miracle's news appearances, which makes me think that it's multiple. Why don't we look up his wife, Helen Lennon? Nothing on her. What about Helen Roottrees? No. What about Elias? We're just looking up all the children that he's got. Elias M. Roottrees. Nothing relevant on him. Let's look up Roottrees Miracle the Third. Miracle Roottrees the Third. Nothing. What about in news time? Nothing. I guess it was Junior, not the second. We already looked this up too, I think. Brick. We could look up Edith Jacobson again. Because she was the one that was in legal trouble. Edith Jacobson. Nothing there. Business Watch. Butler County Times. Yeah. Miracle Congregation Church in Butler County. There we go. Fuck, really? Oh, I was really thinking this could be how I would get, like, info on the tickets or something. Man. Frick. Maybe we could do Congregation Church? Miracle Congregation Church? Doubt it. Fuck, man. Oh, I thought that would have been it, but it's not. That's okay. And it may now be irrelevant. Yeah. So it probably isn't that important. Yeah, Helen Roottrees, we already looked up. Oops. I doubt this is going to be anything relevant. Oh. Interesting. Fuego's Fiesta, a regional Mexican fast food chain, held a competition in 1993 that offered free meals for life to anyone that legally changed their name to Tostarito. The Tostarito is a burrito with a cylindrical tostada shell inside the flour tortilla. According to a few different sources, Tostarito Jacobson used to be named Lucinda. All right. That is interesting. Why would that be relevant if not that someone was having an affair with her? What if we do... I don't have anything on Miracle, right? Yeah, so Miracle. Tostarito Jacobson used to be named Lucinda. Lucinda was the woman who worked with Edith, Miracle Jr.'s wife, who broke into a church. Yeah. To steal tithes. Miracle forgave them and did not press charges. Would this have been an affair? All right, let's look up Tostarito Jacobson. Let's look up Fuego's Fiesta. Fuego's Fiesta? No. Legally changed their name to Tostarito. Can I just look up this Tostarito? No. All right, interesting. There's nowhere else that we can pursue with this. Hold on. I want to go back to this. We've already looked up Edith Jacobson here. There's a Crime Blotter article about Edith Jacobson. Her sister. I didn't realize that they were sisters. Oh, that's fucking creepy. If Miracle was having sex with his son's wife's sister. Okay. What about... We're just focusing on this side. What about Nicole Roottree? Because I want to find out why the Three Generations tour is broken up. Because obviously they're not touring together anymore. So we will look up... What was her name? I immediately forgot. Nicole. Nicole Roottree. Nothing relevant. Butler County Times, right? And then News Time. Anything about her? Business watch. Nothing about her anywhere. Let me look back at the news article and see if there's something here. Obviously, we have this. We could look up Sam Madsen, I suppose. Miracle then pivots. Laughably false. True story. Farewell tour? Miracle farewell tour? Fuck. Alright. Country's churches one last time. Oldest living Butler County. His own church in Butler County. Can we just do Butler County Church? No. I doubt that this is going to prove relevant. No, that's okay. I mean, we could look up Butler County, just straight up Butler County. Located there, blah, blah, blah. All right. Miracles most notable families. Oldest living root tree. I guess we could just look this up. No. Nothing relevant. No. All right, that's fine. So a little bit of a dead end here so far. What about Tessa root tree? We're just focusing on this side of the family, so Tessa root tree. Nothing relevant. Fair enough. Roottrees mechanics. That was what this was originally called, right? Whoa. Roottrees mechanics. Or what was it? It was something else. Oh, it was his wife, Wilkins. Maybe it was something else that I don't remember. That's okay. All right. Nothing that we can discover about Tessa. All right. Well, can't really do anything about this guy. Which means that we probably got to start with Guy Hudson, truly. I think, though, what I want to do is I want to look up Chris Rafferty with his email from... Where was it? This piece of evidence. No, just kidding. Previously on. Other notables... Right. Miracle Root Tree have record albums. Maybe that's what I need to... Well, Jim is the one with the record album. Movies associated with them. What if we look up Miracle Root Tree in Silver Screen, Starlet, and Teen Blast, just to make sure? Because we didn't actually do that. Nothing relevant. All right. Well, I just wanted to be thorough. Because what physical media did Miracle Root Tree have? I guess he may have written a book, but we don't know what book that would be. Stephanie Jones and Brian Jones. Chris Raff, 75. Let's look up him again. Chris Rafferty's Prodigy... Prodigy site seems to have been discovered by the masses. Gone are the art pictures of his cousins. Instead is a list of questions that people keep emailing him. The most relevant ones are the following. This makes sense. Because he's also a child of an affair, right? Are you the son of Clark Rafferty? Yes, but I didn't grow up with him. I remember him from when I was a little kid, but I moved away with my mom when I was very young. We left Pennsylvania and moved back home to Virginia. We lived there with Pete, my stepdad. My dad and I spoke a few times when I found his phone number on a check he sent us in the mail when I was 15. He was happy to hear from me and now calls me once a month. Came to visit me at college. He tells me about things I don't remember and people like Guy Hudson and Ernie Madsen. My dad and I get along, but obviously we aren't very close. Did you ever meet the Roottrees? I used to know the Roottrees, but never the sisters. I was in the office sometimes when I was a kid, and I definitely met Guy Hudson before he died, but I don't remember. My memory's weird. It's hard to know what I actually remember and what I only think I do because I have pictures. For example, I have a photo from when I was 5 and in the office with my dad, and Guy was there. I made myself sick by eating chocolate, and some woman who I don't know cleaned my face. I don't know if my memories of that come from the picture or not. The photo has been added to your evidence. How do you have proof of Ernie Madsen's heart condition? I knew Ernie had a heart problem because my dad told me on one of our phone calls. I asked him about the poison because I saw it on the Roottrees Curse website, and he emailed me some old stuff, including the proof. But even with the proof, the website didn't take it down. You spelled fiance wrong. I'm not good at spelling or writing. I'm good at painting and other art. I'm going to school to learn how to edit movies. I want to make cartoons someday. Lulu is much better at spelling. So that's the picture of... That's him. I'm guessing that's Clark. Because they look pretty similar. And this is another woman who Guy definitely had an affair with. So I probably can get the 4 by just putting like filling in the 4 that we have, and I might have to, but I want to keep pressing on, see what else I can learn. So this was when? Do we have like a date? The photo was on Chris Rafferty's website. According to Chris, it's a photo of him, his father, and Guy Hudson. While they were distracted, he snuck into the supply of chocolate they kept for visitors and tours. Chris Rafferty did not know who the woman in the photo was. She's got a flower on her hand. Also, I should be able to click that face because that's him. Any other pieces of information that I can figure out from this? We have that on her hand. Any other little details that I'm not seeing? Don't think so yet. Let's write that down, though. We'll do that in Guy Hudson. A woman appears in a photo. After the birth of Clark Rafferty. Or not Clark. What's his name? Chris, right? Yeah, Chris Rafferty. Who has a distinct tattoo on her hand of a flower. We do not yet know who she is. However, Clark might know. I wonder if that's fucking Jane. Let's look up Jane. Let's look up this lady. Nope. We could do the Lucky LaRue's again. Actually, she can't be, right? Because only the people who appear on the family tree are listed as such. So it's not Jane. I'm noticing, though, that he has a type of brown-haired lady. And we'll have an extra picture for him eventually. We don't know where this falls in the timeline. I don't know what date that Chris was born either. I don't think. If I had to guess too, that he probably had an affair with Edith Jacobson's sister. Really wish I knew what the fuck happened to this guy, man. All right. Let's go back into our list of shit here. Don't think we need this anymore. We don't really need this anymore. Capitalize on the whistleblowing. Don't really need that. I think I want to look up... Let's look up the Clancid Trust and see what's changed. The Clancid Trust is a Roottrees company's unusual legal arrangement and the motivation for most of their major financial decisions. As a recap, the entire family earns inheritance directly from the profits of the candy company, as well as their sister clothing company, Root. This means that nearly every Roottrees can potentially have a say in the company's high-level operations. Historically, this has caused the family to be slow to approve of any major expenditures that could significantly dig into the profits. After the release of 6 Pieces by Sam Madsen, the Clancid Trust came under heavy scrutiny. Sam, her children, and her grandchildren should have all been covered under the trust according to the wording revealed during an internal family conflict between Ron and Robbie Roottrees. It seems that those who wrote the trust, Clancy Edward Roottrees at the direction of Elias Roottrees, purposefully deceived the rest of the family about the exact details of how it worked, in an attempt to keep Sam and her father, Edward Clancy, his own twin brother, in comparative poverty. Because the rest of the family made money hand over fist, they had very little motivation to question their understanding. Sam's book revealed this to the public, and it did not go over well. Clark Rafferty LaRue took over the company, and his most celebrated move was his first official one. He ensured Sam's family would get their share. To help facilitate this, the inheritance aspect of the trust is now under the control of a third party, Ruby Legal Enterprises. That's what we'll be looking up next. This ensures that the financial motivations of Roottrees family members will not interfere with the investigations into potential new Roottrees. According to Clark's letter, however, some family members are still doing their best to slow the investigation by refusing to answer questions. Ruby Legal Enterprises is the name of the law firm that has been hired by the Roottrees Candy Company. The company is named after its head lawyer Ruby Spratt. We'll do Miracle, Elias, Guy, and then the rest. Okay. So, where's my searches? Did I delete it? I guess I did. I'm gonna put searches at the top. Ruby Spratt is the head lawyer of Ruby Legal Enterprises. You can't find much about the company from before this year, though. All of the articles tell the same tale. After the fiasco of 6 Pieces and the revelation that the Roottrees internal law group was complicit in such a cover-up, they hired outside counsel. The Ruby Legal Enterprise Group now seems to have ties to multiple aspects of the Roottrees Corporation, including the Candy Company and Root. They were recently in the news due to a high-profile lawsuit they raised against Cicely Sanchez. The law firm doesn't have significant online presence prior to 1998. Or 1999, which is suspicious. I guess instead of searches, this is just going to be Ruby Legal. The law firm has ties to both Roottrees Corp and Root. Recently involved in a high-profile lawsuit with Cicely Sanchez. Let's look up Cicely. Cicely Sanchez is an author for best known for Portrait of a Changed Man. Okay. Portrait of a Changed Man. Cicely Sanchez. Her follow-up, Foreign Gospel. Foreign Gospel. Cicely Sanchez. Did not perform as well critically, but still sold quite respectably. She has written a few more books since then, including a biography of Van Gogh, but her first two are her claim to fame. Wrote a biography on Van Gogh as well. According to a site about authors, Cicely is known for her nonfiction with a focus on exploring darkness in the human psyche. Okay. Recently, Cicely appeared in a magazine called Roottrees. Appeared in a magazine called Roottrees with an article about a book she had commissioned to write for Guy Hudson. About a book she was commissioned to write for Guy Hudson. The magazine and Cicely herself were immediately issued a cease and desist due to its inclusion of pictures that she never had the rights to publish. She was pulled from store shelves, making an instant collector's item. All right. Very good. We've got a lot to look up. Let's start with the books that we can find more readily. Cicely Sanchez, Portrait of a Changed Man. Out of print. The book's description has this to say: what if everything you stand for, everything you know to be true, today could disappear in an instant? All of your politics, relationships, gone in a blink of an eye. Would you still be you? Cicely Sanchez tells this powerful true story about a man who woke up after being saved from drowning in his backyard pool, became an entirely different person. Included are interviews from those that knew him best before, as well as a one-on-one chat that paints an entirely different picture. You won't be able to put it down without wondering, what if it were me? Okay. And then Foreign Gospel. Foreign Gospel tells the tale from a man from the Catholic Church who claims that he was told by God that he should travel to Thailand and begin to preach, specifically with the goal to convert 10,000 people. He returned to the United States after just 2 years, claiming to have succeeded. This book tells his version of the story, but this author, Cicely Sanchez, also traveled to Thailand to investigate these claims and talk with some of the so-called converted. Okay. We can just look up Van Gogh, I suppose. This seems silly. Yeah. Yeah. So let's look up this now. It's a category of flower with an outline around the edges of its petals. I'm in a magazine called Picot. Oh, the magazine was immediately issued a cease and desist as well. Nothing relevant. Interesting. Newstime briefly covered a lawsuit between Ruby Spratt and Picot magazine surrounding Cicely Sanchez. They said that Cicely didn't have the rights to redistribute the photos in the magazine of Guy Hudson. Picot apparently announced that they would be pulling the issue the following day the moment that Ruby Legal Enterprises threatened them. This caused the issue to sell faster than any other in the magazine's history, but only for a day. Even people that would never have normally purchased it went out of their way to buy one, just in case it could be worth something someday. It especially caught the eye of conspiracy theorists, who assumed that anything we're suing over would have to be hiding something. Possible lead in conspiracy theorists websites. Review Chris Rafferty info to follow this lead. An expert legal analyst from Newstime states that it was unlikely that Ruby could have had this story pulled if it had gone to court, and Picot likely got more eyes on it than it would have if the Roottrees just ignored the story. All right. Let's look up Ruby Sprat now. It's probably going to be the same one, yeah. But let's look up Business Watch. Clark Rafferty LaRue, as well as Ruby Sprat and her company, Ruby Legal Enterprises, were featured in Business Watch after the company took over as keepers of the Clancy Trust. There's an article about that process that interviews both Clark and Ruby. It seems that Ruby actually approached the Roottrees sometimes in late March after the Roottree rift, but well before Roottreemania. An accomplished but relatively low-profile lawyer, she offered to work for very little money, so long as she could be a public face to build her reputation. The family quickly jumped on this chance, as many family members often attempt to spend as little as possible, to keep their shares of the Clancy Trust as high as possible. After looking over the Clancy Trust more carefully than anyone had in years... There's an older version of this. What do we know about her? I swear this name is familiar. Let's not get distracted. After looking over the Clancy Trust more carefully than anyone in years, Ruby came to the conclusion that the Clancy Edward Rootrees implementation was not legally sound, and that there would be constant legal challenges without some modifications. The family decided to put her in charge of the trust, both legally and as a public face, to prevent further issues. Ruby Legal Enterprises has been described as a mix between a law firm and a PR firm. Her first move, as sort of a trial run before she was hired permanently, was to help them draft a public statement accepting Sam into the family and declaring that they begin to address the Clancy Trust. This went quite well, and they officially hired her in early April. Ruby Legal is now in charge of many financial aspects of the company, including verifying any claims to the trust and organizing the various charitable cases or causes, such as scholarships that have been set up in the name of the deceased. Okay. Scholarships named after Clark, after the deceased. Could be literally anyone from Edward to Clark and his family. Carl. All right, so that's a pretty open-ended thing that we could try and figure out. What is the older one? Okay. I understand. Okay. So, why does Ruby Sprat sound so familiar? Is somebody married to her? No, right? It just sounded familiar. I don't know why. Okay, we have a lot to think about. Well, let's... I'm gonna keep notes like this even after I've searched for them. I want to follow up on the conspiracy theory thing. So let's look up... I did the search here, but I want to go to the older one. There was a way that we got here, though. I don't remember how. The Roottrees curse. During your initial search, you came across Thomas Overwood's conspiracy page about the Roottrees. 8 months later, the page still exists and is thriving. The visitor counter has reached 7 digits. Many older articles have been replaced. It seems that the recent uprising in Roottree news has left Thomas Overwood with a constant stream of events to base new theories on. More than one of his theories involve Roottrees deaths being faked. According to Overwood, statistically, when you have this many high-profile people who have died in a family, the odds are that one of them faked their death. It's just math. This newfound focus on death faking seems to coincide with a post mentioning that he's begun believing the guy's not dead theory. I guess that can go in Guy Hudson. There is a conspiracy called the guy's not dead theory. In his own eyes, my eyes have been opened. All of this is beginning to make too much sense. One of his posts details the belief that Ron Roottrees is still in charge. Gwyn Rootree's death was faked. So Gwyn is dead. I don't even know where to put that. So, conspiracy. The guy's not dead theory. Gwen is apparently dead. Ron Roottree is the shadow president. Okay. One of his new posts believed that Ron Roottree is still in charge, Gwen Roottree's death was faked, and that Clark is the only there to throw people off. Apparently, this allowed Ron to travel to France to develop their new candy recipe in secret. Another is about the rapper 5Ps. He can't possibly be a Roottree. One of his first album songs, when he was performing under the devil name, actually mentioned that he wanted to have sex with Raina. Ugh. Okay. 5Ps first album released under a different devil name, mentioned wanting to have sex with Raina. Not even Sam Madsen is spared. According to Overwood, the author of Six Pieces isn't real. Sam Madsen is an anagram for Am Madness. They're purposefully leaving hints for us. He claims that by using Six Pieces with Lauren Rootree's book as a one-time pad, he has begun to decrypt a cipher. Most of the cipher has seemed meaningless, but he managed to pick out the words people and vastness and is working on figuring out what that means. There's also a request at the bottom. Next year, 2000, is a leap year, and Overwood is looking for funds and volunteers to catch the Rootrees red-handed in Operation RT-29. Operation RT-29. He specifically mentions not to volunteer if you've ever drunk Spirit Cola. Spirit Cola. But doesn't go into why. Okay, we got a lot here. We're gonna do the guy's not dead theory. The guy's not dead conspiracy stems from a website that focuses on clues that the Rootrees has supposedly hid all over the place. We got the magazine. That's what I was hoping. This includes on candy wrappers, in print advertisements, and television commercials, in their jingles, etc. The story, we're gonna open this up. According to the website, is that Guy Hudson was a terrible president of the Roottrees Candy Company and introduced multiple failed products. Something needed to be done that would put the company immediately and instantly back in favor of consumers. So they killed off Guy Hudson and replaced him with a new president. The conspiracy is that to avoid continued bad publicity after a series of company decisions that put RCC in a bad light, Guy needed to be killed and replaced as president. This move immediately garnered sympathy, and the company recovered the next year more popular than ever. The next president stayed much further out of the limelight, and some people even theorized that he was simply Guy Hudson in an elaborate disguise, which is why he stopped appearing in public. The people who run the site are asking for help. They're certain that there's a clue to all this that accidentally leaked in a banned article from the magazine Picot. On their page is a scan of the magazine's cover, the interview with Cicely Sanchez about Guy Hudson, and some photos. You add them to your evidence. Excellent. Let's look at these immediately. Basilbub. Could this popular gift be killing or filling homes with satanic messages? Exclusive. Cicely Sanchez reveals Roottree secrets. Plus the utensils that will help you lose 50 pounds. It's the same one. All right, let's read this. Okay. I guess we'll keep this in conspiracy, or I guess Guy Hudson. Picot information. This is an interview with Cicely Sanchez, an author. She was hired to write a book about Guy Hudson. You claim to have been paid a significant amount of money to write a book about one of the Rootrees, Guy Hudson. He was president for a short period at the end of the 1970s, right? Yeah, I met him on New Year's Eve, actually. The last night of 1978. Guy liked to throw big parties. I was just coming off of Changed Man. That's the book that we've already looked up. Where did I put that? In Ruby Legal, right? Yeah, Portrait of a Changed Man. Maybe I should do that. No, I guess this is more Guy Hudson than her. and looking for my next project. When his wife learned who I was, she invited me to the party and they cornered me to talk about a book. That was the first time the first time anyone recognized me for my work. I'd finally made it. The book they asked me to write sounded great, but then none of the stuff that made him interesting was allowed to stay. Anything with even the slightest threat to Guy's image ended up being gonzo. What was the stuff that made him interesting? At his core, Guy was not complicated. In fact, I think I could boil him down to 2 traits. First, he wanted to be seen as the second coming of the great Elias Roottree. And second, he'd never be satisfied living the life needed to be seen that way. He had his fortune and good looks, and he really liked to exploit that to pick up women, but he couldn't let anyone else know, so it cost him a lot to cover it up. That was the only interesting of Guy. He was James Bond trying to convince people he was Mr. Rogers, I guess. Mr. Rogers, really. Maybe that's the best metaphor, but Elias Roottree was boring as all hell and all about family. Guy did everything he could to be seen that way. After I submitted my first draft, he sent me this garbage book, The Roottree Legacy, with Elias on the cover. We should look up The Roottree Legacy then. My searches page is gone again. Let me add it again. Searches. The Roottree Legacy to get Elias's portrait. The last time he and I met, he even switched out his orange suits for the same green ones Elias wore. Okay. Swapped from orange to green suits to better emulate Elias Roottree in an attempt to better, I don't know, bolster his reputation. Remember fancy flavors? Guy knew that part of Elias's legacy was the 5-piece flavors. So that's what Guy tried to do too. Caviar was a disaster here, but it was actually somewhat popular in Brazil for whatever reason. Okay, so interestingly, caviar, the otherwise failed flavor of the fancy flavors campaign, was also popular in Brazil. Roottree Brazil. Okay. So let's do that. In Christmas 1979, he went to Brazil to open the Roottree Brazil factory. Opened the Roottree Brazil factory in 1979. So how come the book never came out? It's complicated. I had an out in my contract. Surprisingly, Guy signed the contract my lawyers wrote without ruining or running it by anybody in his legal department. I could pull my name off the book at any time, but Guy still got the content. After I left, it probably got a lot harder to convince any real publisher to give it their time. Okay, so the book Cicely was tapped to write was likely republished under a different name, as the contents were still owned by Guy and his company. Okay. So let me just make sure. I think I've read everything here, and I feel pretty good about this so far. All right, next page. He was the president, right? Do you know why he never released it himself? If I had to guess, his family very wisely put a stop to it. Mid-1981, months after I had already moved on, he called me back and showed me a final draft. Do you know how expensive it is to publish one copy of a book? It had my name on it in big, shiny, embossed letters. Like all problems in his life, throwing money at me was his attempt to win me back. But it had half the page count and the narrative was torn to bits. No thanks. The dinner was good, imported steak that likely cost as much as a month of my mortgage, and we all got pretty drunk. He sent his mistress, Susie something. A guy had a mistress in 1981 named Susie something into my bathroom to proposition me. She was from she traveled with guy overseas, either because she was from overseas or just was a companion. Sicily has been noted to have traveled to Thailand to confirm the facts in her second major publication. Okay. Poor girl. I remember her from our trips overseas. She was too good for him. Anyways, he died soon after, and that was the last it ever came up. Okay, so Guy also would die shortly after this confrontation, perhaps implicating that Susie was his last lover. What you can tell us about the family? Any insight into the scandals from the recent book by Sam Madsen? I actually haven't read it. I just skimmed the sections on Guy to see why people were suddenly calling me to ask about the man. I'd say she did well for what she wanted to, or what she had to work with. She only had rumors, whereas I spent time tailing him. Sometimes he knew, sometimes he didn't. He invited me to join them when dealing with Roottrees Brazil, but I actually had people on him when he went to Australia, France, and China too. Sicily also traveled or had people traveling with him, with Guy, to Australia, France, China, and Brazil. When he met with someone, I figured I'd figure out who they were and how they were involved. Doubly so if the meeting happened when he didn't want me to be around. Despite his best efforts, I got the whole truth, including things that even his family never knew. For example, the daughter of his business partner in Australia, I think her name was Robin. He and she definitely spent a few nights together that he didn't want his family to know about, but I did. Guy had an affair with his business partner's daughter from Australia. I'll do with his Australian business partner. Her name may have been Robin. Madsen got things wrong. Sam mentions Guy's affairs and treats them like most people would logically think to treat them. Like the infidelity was a problem for Patricia. His wife, Patricia... When his wife first approached me, though, it wasn't to talk, if you get my meaning. Was obviously supportive of his philandering. I don't know how to spell that word. Likely also participating in his affairs. On paper and in public, it was a marriage like any other, but in reality, it was more of a mutually beneficial arrangement. They both got what they wanted out of it, the same thing. What was that? I'm assuming I only have to spell it out so you can get it in writing for your readers. Women. His wife may have lesbian, or at the very least, well, yeah, we don't know that. His wife wanted access to women sexually. The swinger scene made that more accessible. I told her that I wasn't interested in her and Guy. I found out later that if I had said yes, her next question would have been whether or not her husband actually had to be there too. Guy, on the other hand, was seen in a traditional marriage and at the same time could bed any women that he found charming. I can assure you that was exactly the type of marriage he was interested in. Interesting. It's messy. This photo is from the first from a magazine interview with Cicely Sanchez and Pico T. The issue of Pico T magazine that it came from was pulled from the shelves, but you managed to find it online. Pico T does not label its individual photos. Both photos were instead under the shared label. Cicely was provided these photos by the Roottrees company for use in her book. In the background of the photo, there's a Christmas tree. This is the same woman with the hand tattoo. So we have two pictures of this woman. Can't see their hands. So we don't know if these people are married. But this is telling us that this took place in Christmas. I mean, it could be. Let's note that we have a picture in which a new woman is shown with a man, potentially her husband, at a party that took place at Christmas. There is also a woman in the background who shares the same hand tattoo in a previous image we've seen that Chris Rafferty was in. All right, and then we have this picture. That's Zach. This is probably the New Year's party. Interesting. We can't click Elias's picture. Ooh, what does that mean? Does that mean that he's not actually the first person to have an affair? Maybe that implicates Edward Clancy. Or Clancy Edward. Edward Clancy is Sam's father, surrogate father. And Clancy Edward is the other twin. Okay. So she's holding champagne, which makes me think that this is the New Year's. This is a picture that took place on New Year's, potentially. Or this is when the transfer of his presidency occurred, you know, where he's stepping down and he's taking over. We have another picture featuring a woman holding champagne as Guy shakes Zach Morton's hand. It's entirely possible the blonde woman in the picture is his new secretary after having replaced Joanne several weeks after Zach's departure. Because Joanna, not Joanne. We know that Joanna is Zach's old secretary, right? Unless she dyed her hair blonde, which she could have. Okay, let's review. She did not dye her hair blonde because there aren't multiple pictures of her. We know that she is the mother of Felix, which means that she is the first affair that Guy had. At this point, we also have this woman who is the same as this one. So if I were to guess, it's her. Because we have multiple pictures of her. And there isn't another woman that has multiple picture slots. And that isn't his wife, because his wife would be listed as part of the family tree if that were the case. So she is not depicted. Unless he didn't have an affair with these women, you know? And this picture belongs to someone else entirely. But looking around, there aren't a lot of other people that have multiple images available. These two. But this is the one that's closest to him that does. So if I were to guess, this is her. We don't know her name, though. And it's entirely possible that this is a new secretary. We also have this woman and this woman. Is there... So if I were to guess, again, based off of just some, you know, surface level assumptions, because this partner is the one that has an image available to them, he likely had an affair with this woman who was married to this man at one of their swinger parties. Let me confirm that in... Hold on. There was a discussion about a swinging party that took place, I think, in Christmas time, right? Yes. Elizabeth's daughter met a caterer from Antonelli's. Let me look this up. Ooh. Yeah, let me look this up and then... Hold on. We're going to go through the history. I think it's one of these first few things that we looked up. Was it in her book that the Christmas party was described? Private parties. According to a caterer from a local restaurant, didn't seem comfortable. It's not clear that it's this was 20 years ago. Yeah, it doesn't say that it's explicitly Christmas, right? Yeah. Okay. Just that there was a swinging party. Maybe it was in here? Yeah, so Joanna was Zach Morden's secretary when he retired, and then Guy Hudson's secretary for only 1 or 2 weeks after that before she quit. Right. Any information specifically about Christmas? No. What about back here when I looked up him? Not anything specific. Okay. Well, we're gonna pay attention to this Christmas thing. Probably the second one, if I were to guess. And we don't know the third one yet. I'm just putting pictures in places we're not going to worry too much about getting specific info. Well, we got a lot to think about, man. We got a lot to think about. I have written a fuck ton of notes that we can go down in many different directions. Yeah. So, there's a woman that we have not seen who may be the last affair partner that he had. So it might be her. because he shortly died. Well, actually, we don't know when he started having that like travel companion. It might be easier to figure out Guy before we figure out the rest of the family, truly. All right, it's been another hour, which means I'm going to break my episode here. We have an absolute fuck ton of information to work with. We've got the Brazil angle. We've got the Australia angle. We've got the caterer that I just, have remembered. Did we put Zach's picture in? I don't think we did. So we'll put Zach's picture in, which I think takes care of all the pictures outside of this area, like outside of the main branches. And I'm wondering if maybe we need to lock some people in order to get the like story evidence that we are missing. Because presumably Sam is going to show up, and we're going to need to like beseech her to work with Clark. We do have a lot that we can look around for, though, and that is certainly interesting. Yeah. Because we have enough information to plug in Guy, probably plug in Felix. Well, certainly plug in Felix. We don't know Joanna's last name, I don't think. Actually. And we probably can also get him. We actually may only have 3 for now. Because I am absolutely not going to start fucking putting in every last name for Joanna. Like, that is not what I want to do at all for this. We still have so much that we could investigate. So, anyway, thanks so very much for watching. I certainly had fun playing. I hope I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!